Call this meeting of the Madison School Board to order. Ms. Humphries, can you call the roll?
President Thompson.
Present.
Vice President Kazi.
Here.
Member Gresham.
Here.
Member Hunt.
Here.
Member Holcomb.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you very much. And just an apology to anyone who was waiting to hear this meeting. We had a study session that ran long, but appreciate anyone who is still online. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Is there a motion to adopt it as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Kazi, seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Humphries, why don't you lead us today?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Superintendent's report. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. I wanted to thank all the staff members who presented at our study session today. A special thanks to Jason Piankowski for making a world record on his presentation to try to catch us up on the Cogni accreditation review. Thanks to Kyle DiMatteo and Jose Aldamida for their emergency response planning information. And a special thanks to Cabinet on the strategic planning work. A welcome to Scott Thompson for joining us today before his official start date and for his engagement and collaboration with business services on our proposed budget. Thank you so much, Dr. Allen, for filling the position temporarily, the hours of work on the proposed budget. You're truly appreciated, and you already feel like a member of the team. We will miss you. And a special thanks to Director of Finance, Ella Conroy. The hours of work she put in on a proposed budget when we do not yet have a budget from the state and just had some new forms released this morning. Really an incredible amount of work, and we're so grateful for her dedication. Thanks, Governing Board, for the long day today, for the important work. I really appreciate all the time you put in. Anyone who's watching that is not already on vacation, I hope you have a summer that is filled with joy, family, and friends. We're so grateful for all that you do for the Madison community, and I hope you have a wonderful summer.
Thank you. Board member reports. Let's start with Ms. Gresham today.
Okay. Mine will be very short because all I can think of is I got the opportunity to start my tenure as the Education Foundation representative from the board, and so we had a retreat a couple weeks ago, and so yeah, that was great to get to know everyone and see what all they do. I'm gonna sure learn a lot about the foundation. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
I just want to say thanks to all the staff who are still here in the summer working hard every single day and doing incredible work. So thanks for your dedication to Madison, and I hope you do get some time for a little vacation this summer.
Thank you. Ms. Kazi.
I just want to thank everyone for the outstanding presentations today. That obviously took a fair amount of time, but like this kind of information just helps make our job so much easier because we can be competent when people ask us questions. So thank you for that, and that's all I have.
Mr. Holcomb.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to thank Dr. Allen for coming in on in an interim basis to help us through the transition. Also, I wanted to mention, thank everybody who participated in the study session. We went through a lot of data and a lot of programs and discussion of that, but what really stood out to me is, when you take a step back and look at it, is the depth and just the quality of the culture that all that data and the programs and the discussion of what we're doing going forward showed, I think, of Madison. I think that the education in that is a real strength, but I think it all goes back to the culture that has been developed and maintained in Madison, and we should, I think, should be very proud of that. Last thing is, we want to remind, if there's anybody out there, to get, we are having our annual Welcome Back Breakfast, and we're seeking from from community members and businesses in Madison to give us gift certificates and prizes that we can give out to the staff and teachers when we come back to show how much we appreciate them. We'd appreciate any help we can get in that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, and I will echo all the comments made by my fellow board members. I'd also like to say it's so great to see not only students in our summer programs taking advantage of things, but walking up to the meeting today. There were 2 Kyrene school buses of kids who were leaving Center for the Arts and the programming that was going on there. So glad that our facilities can be used not just during the school year, but also for those for programs, not just for our own students, but students around the Valley as well. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Holcomb, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is call to the public. Pursuant to board policy, time has been set aside for a call to the public. This is an opportunity for individuals to address the entire board in a public setting to express their views and concerns. State law limits our ability to respond to comments made during call to the public. However, we do hear your remarks and ask the superintendent to follow up to provide us with information regarding any issues raised. To keep us on schedule, each speaker has no more than 3 minutes. Ms. Humphries, I understand that there were no online calls. Doesn't appear from the looks of the room that there are any present here today.
We have no calls to public.
Next item on the agenda, board policies and second read. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, Dr. Lomeli is back for a second read on her policies.
Madam President, members of the board, cabinet, the policies before you were came for the first read on May 6th. I'll entertain any questions, but I did not receive any questions or comments in advance.
And just as a reminder for the public, if anyone is listening, as you mentioned, these were first presented in May. Some of the other ones that presented in early May were taken care of last meeting, and because you had some family commitments, we moved it to this agenda. So if there are any comments or questions for Dr. Lomeli. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve all the board policies presented in item number 5?
So moved.
I will second.
Motion made by Ms. Causey, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next action items on the agenda. Item 6.1, proposed 25-26 budget, even though there is no state budget yet. Dr. Guerin.
That is true, Madam President, members of the board and cabinet. We have Dr. Allen here to present our proposed budget for 25-26, along with Mr. Scott Thompson in the audience as a second support. Dr. Allen.
Yes, good evening, President Thompson, members of the governing board, Dr. Guerin, and guests. Tonight I will present and summarize for you the 2025-26 proposed district budget. Supporting documents provided tonight in your agenda included the budget itself, the 24-hour hearing and notification summary that was posted to ADE yesterday, the truth in taxation notice relevant to the adjacent ways item, that must be published in a newspaper of general circulation at least 10 days in advance of the hearing for this item. So that hearing would be on June 30th, and that truth and taxation notice is scheduled to be published in the Arizona Republic on June 19th. And that document is an actual form provided by the Auditor General's office. It is simply updated with the district's name, the dollar figures, and the time and meeting of the hearing date. In addition, you were provided the PowerPoint highlighting the significant aspects of the fiscal year 26 district proposed budget. And as you've noted, we don't have a state budget yet, so I don't know if highlights is really an appropriate term for this slide at this point, but nonetheless, the legislature is still in session with no final state budget, but districts are still bound by statute to propose a budget by July 5th and adopt by July 15th. So preliminary budget forms are issued by the Auditor General on May 7th with several options, and they should be options 1, 2, and 3, not 1, 1, 1. So option 1, propose and adopt the fiscal 26 budget with these forms and then revised by September 15th. Option 2, wait for final forms, then propose, adopt, and revise as needed. Option 3, propose with these forms, re-propose, and adopt with final forms, and revise as needed. So after consultation with administration, we have chosen option 1, which is using the preliminary forms. We've increased, however, a couple of factors so we could edit the forms. We've increased the base level amount, which is the amount we receive per pupil. We increased it by 2%, assuming the inflation factor of 2%. So you can see it goes from 5,013 to 5,113. And we've also adjusted the Teacher Experience Index, the TEI, which is a multiplier based on our experience level of our teachers, and that number is multiplied by the base support level. So those are the two adjustments we made to the forms, although Ms. Conroy made some other adjustments because even some changes came out, I think today or yesterday, from the Auditor General with calculations. So the next slide focuses on M&O budget, maintenance and operations. And these are the budget commitments that arose from employee negotiations in the early spring or late winter for fiscal 26. So all employees scheduled to receive a 3% salary increase. That's approximately $1,125,000. Classified staff would receive an additional holiday at a cost of about $21,000. Providing a reading interventionist at middle schools at 0.8 FTE at a cost of about $72,000. Pay new teachers for teacher orientation. Approximately, I think it's estimated to be about 60, maybe new teachers at a cost of $22,000. And increase longevity pay within these various lanes with an estimated cost of about $43,000. Those total costs sum up to about $1,300,000. That's generally, or estimated to be. There is a significant change to the form if you browse the budget and you're familiar with the budget, and it has to do with carry forward. We discuss carry forward all the time. For us, we're familiar with what do we have left over this year to carry into next year. But there's a new budget line on several pages. On your cover page and in budget page 1, there's a new line for projected M&O carry forward at the end of next year. So the state is asking districts to, once you budget for fiscal 26, what do you expect or propose or estimate would be the amount you have left over to carry forward into fiscal 27? So that amount is $1,300,000 in M&O, and again, it is an estimate. It's $4,100,000 for capital, and it's $4,100,000 for classroom site fund, and $5 million for capital. Okay, and again, you would find that on those particular budget pages with each of those categories. So next we have a summary of maintenance and operations and where the money's coming from and what the totals amount to for M&O for next year. So the weighted ADM, or average daily membership, we've used 7,071.6. That's an increase of 8 weighted students. The actual ADM is in the 5,000s, but every student gets weighted a little more, and then the Group B students. So it's just an increase of 8 weighted students. The base level increase, you can see that's the multiplier times that 7,000. The base support level, that really should say the revenue control limit. That's the RCL, which is the base support level plus transportation plus the audit funds. And the base support level is multiplied by the TEI. But so that revenue control limit of $37,675,000, that's approximately $960,000 more than current year. So an increase slightly less than $1 million. District additional assistance budgeted for M&O, scheduled to be $2.9 million. That's an increase of about $900,000 over this current year. It's also, compared to fiscal 25 and fiscal 26, district additional assistance has only increased by about, actually it decreased by about $4,000 overall. The M&O override, which you have a 15% override, just multiply that by your revenue control limit, $5,651,000. That's an increase of $114,000, and because your revenue control limit goes up, your override increase. Your carry forward from current year. This is why the carry forward piece gets a little confusing in the budget. So this is current year, expectation to be about $1,500,000. That's a decrease of about $400,000 from fiscal 24. Prop 123 estimated to be about the same as current year, about $350,000. And so the total budget limit of $48,083,000 and change is an increase of about $1,330,000. So an overall increase of about $1,300,000 in M&O for fiscal 26. Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Ghazi.
Thank you so much. So just, can someone remind me, when we did decompression, was it carry forward from the previous fiscal year or the 2 fiscal years ago? That's my first question. And then I'm also curious to know why we're seeing reductions in district additional assistance. I mean, I know it's not nominal, but I'm still curious.
So I remember we built up the carry forward over a couple of years to be able to do the parity work.
Okay, because I thought it was like $1 million, so I'm surprised it's only $400,000. I just was trying to make sure that it was 2 years ago. Okay, okay, that's what I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, that's right. 2
That's
years
what
ago.
my question was on that. Okay, thanks.
And I'm going to reference DAA again as I move into capital, because you're going to see a pretty significant difference of DAA applied to M&O and applied to capital, which is a funding amount you can float between those two categories. So the next slide on unrestricted capital outlay. So you see DAA is 0 for FY26. And I'm going to return to that momentarily. Your capital override, which is 10% of your RCL, about $8 million. That's an increase of $76,000. Your carry forward from current year into next year is projected to be over $11 million. Your interest earned, and that was item 3.8 in your consent agenda tonight, allowing the treasurer to invest. is about 300,000. And the total unrestricted capital outlay budget limit of 15,408,000 is an increase of about $115,000. Now let's go back to DAA for a moment. So after discussion with administration, the rationale for moving all of DAA into M&O and having none in capital. Current year, for example, we had about 2 million in M&O and about 900,000 in capital in this current year. We've chosen to move it all into M&O for next year. The rationale for that, you can see the budget balance in capital is extremely healthy, $15 million. The recent expenditure trends in capital for the district in fiscal '24, capital expenditures were about 3.2 million. So approximately what the override generates. In fiscal '25, or current year, to date, it's been about 3.5 million. Again, pretty much what the override generates. So, and you can also look at the carry forward in M&O has declined. So that's the rationale for moving all of DAA into M&O, perhaps offset some of the decline in the carry forward, but also you have, again, a very healthy capital outlay budget. And so yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Kazi.
So I guess my understanding, so I thought we were receiving less money from the state. I understand the internal use because, I mean, DAA used to be soft capital, which is kind of like why it's M&O.
Right, soft
It
capital.
really is. So I think I have my question answered. I was just misunderstanding the difference. I mean, I was very clear of our use of DAA and M&O and why. It's a solid reason.
Okay.
Thank you.
And very comfortable taking questions along the way rather than waiting from the end. If, feel free. We'll go to the next slide. Yes, please. Next slide, classroom site fund. There has been an increase for fiscal '26 of the per pupil amount to $842 per pupil. That generates a fiscal '26 allocation of $5,162,000 and change. That is an increase of a little more than $300,000. Carry forward or unexpended budget balance in classroom site fund is $4,500,000. Interest from the county treasurer, $155,000. So the total budget limit for classroom site fund next year, about $9.9 million. That is an increase of about $300,000 over current year. Sorry for the poor returns on my dollar figures on your state grants, but Title I is estimated to be about $725,000. Title II for professional development, about $350,000. IDEA Part B, about $1.75 million. And the safety grant, which I think primarily funds additional counselors, of $700,000. Again, this page is new for the budget. You haven't seen this page has been empty probably for years in your budget documents. So with the request for, proposing a request for adjacent ways additional revenue, I put a screenshot from the page. So the adjacent ways revenue for qualifying expenses associated with Madison Rose Lane construction includes money for roadway construction, sidewalks, utility lines, ingress, egress for buses, and fire lanes. And so this is straight from the budget page, a screenshot. The proposal of $2,300,000 is applied to the assessed valuation of the district properties of $1,345,000,000. It turns into $17 per $100,000 of assessed value or valuation of a home. So $17 per $100,000. the truth in taxation notice that you have in supporting documents reflects that amount.
Mr. Holcomb.
You just quick, on the slide, it says $10,000. It's per
It's
100,000?
the multiplier, but it is $17 per 100,000 of a home.
Okay.
The
Oh,
multiplier,
I see it, I see it. Never mind.
and that matches again, again, if you look at your truth in taxation notice that was provided, that they need to be a one-to-one match from what we are proposing on the budget, and they are. Yes,
Go ahead, Ms. Causey.
Sorry. And then how long is the bonding for that, for the 2.3
that is
million?
1 year only.
Just a 1 year, that's what I
Yes,
thought. Okay.
thank you very much.
Any other questions about the truth in taxation? Okay, go ahead, thank you.
The budget limit and expenditures, this is a screenshot from the cover page, and it's just a good summary of overall. You can see the M&O fund, the total of the 48 million, and they need to match what we proposed earlier. And you see that 1,300,000. That is this estimated carry forward at the end of next year. And
I'd just like to point out on this slide very briefly that when we see the federal projects and other impact aid, that's the budget limit on that is 5.3 million. We do, as we saw on the other slide, we get federal funds, and anything that's happening at the federal level in education is going to impact not just Madison, but other schools as well. Sorry to interrupt your presentation.
Quite all right. And the capital fund, that matches again what was presented on the capital outlay slide. And again, a carry forward of 5 million, that's probably pretty conservative with the $15 million budget. And the federal projects estimated $5,365,000, and so your total district budget for next year is $68,857,581. The next slide is also a screenshot from your cover page. You're statutorily required to provide your teacher salary information, and your teacher salary percent increase based on negotiations and approval of the 3%. And that concludes all the data I have for you. So I just have one more comment. The pending approval of the proposed budget, the district is required now to post the proposed budget on ADE's website and a notice to adopt the budget no later than 10 days prior to the meeting to adopt the budget. So the plan will be to, pending approval, post the proposed budget on ADE's site within the next day or so. And because Thursday's a holiday, so it should be posted, and that will meet the 10-day advance notice of the adoption hearing and the truth in taxation.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Are there any other questions from the board? Ms. Gresham?
I'm just curious, because we have in here funding from Prop 123, which we don't know, is probably not going to happen. Is that, and this might not be relevant, but it might just end up in base level or something, but is that something we should be concerned about that might not be there?
You want me to?
Sure, go right ahead.
If you don't mind covering board, I'll jump in real quick. So you're getting into the legislative process of the budget. Prop 123 is ending this year, as you know, but it is contemplated in the base level funding that was put forward in the legislative budget. Currently, that is continuing. So that is to fund the base level funding that he just showed you with the 2% increase. There's $300 million that the general fund now has to pick up because the trust lands will no longer be providing that. And that is in the Senate budget that's being contemplated right now. There's also an additional $75 million that also is part of the old Prop 123. That is also in the baseline budget, plus the 2% increase. So for now, 123 lives in a continued general budget allocation with no trust land involvement anymore. That is likely where 123 will go forward for now. The question today is whether they'll have some kind of an election coming up for a renewal, or really it's not 1, 2, 3 anymore, but they keep calling it 1, 2, 3, but for additional use of that trust land funds for additional funding to education, not base level. They kind of supplanted the money they didn't have 10 years ago with that. So it's there, it's just now coming from a different source. Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you. So we might just have to move it up, but we'll keep our fingers crossed.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. There's also in the state level budget, the contemplation of restoring. So if you remember in May, when Dr. Allen presented, we got one-time funding for DAA and poverty weight. It looks like that's going to happen again, because the funding that you were just looking at for DAA and poverty was put back to the baseline that was contemplated in the state level budget. And then the increase we were to have received this year came in May as a one-time payment. It looks like next year's is going to be the same thing, a one-time payment of those two increases. So the positive side is that additional money is being restored in the current budget that's being contemplated, but not yet voted on. So these are all things we think may happen, but they're not in your current budget. They weren't in your adopted budget last year. They didn't come till May. So we'll figure that all out once the legislation is actually approved and finalized. The last thing I just wanted to comment real quickly on, because truth in taxation is relatively new because you haven't done it for a while. The statement that you have before you that's going to be published does not contemplate anything about any current tax rates or future tax rate. It is solely what the cost of that adjacent ways expense is. And as Dr. Allen said, it is, I like to call it as pay-as-you-go funding, because you're going to raise the taxes, we're going to use it for the project, and there's no debt and there's no interest contemplated in that. So there's kind of a win-win for that tax, even though it is an additional tax. So
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for those explanations. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you some narrative to where we're at, because that, you got the nuts and bolts,
Yep.
but you kind of want to know where we're headed. Hopefully, we're going to have a budget here maybe within this week, next week at the latest. We'll see. But this budget, I think, contemplates what we think is going to happen, best we can determine at this point. Thank you.
I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to point that out. And I also will point out that every time there's one-time funding, which is pretty much every year now, it's not going into our base level, which is what the inflation is based on. So there is reasons for that, and it's basically giving us less money. Just point that out as well. Thank you both.
Thank you, Mr. Gresham. Thank you both. Are there other questions? I just want to make a comment about the time which it is taking to adopt a state budget. We are in a different place than some other school districts who will start their school year within a couple of weeks. Some of the year-round schools start in July. It's untenable that we are this long into the summer and the state hasn't pulled themselves together to put a budget on the table. I applaud our staff's work to do what we can with the information that we have, but as someone once said, this is not the way to run a railroad. So thank you for all of this information. We will look forward, like we do every year, approving, doing the hearing, but then having to revisit everything once the state budget is finalized and we get the final paperwork long after the school year has started. But want to thank you for that work. Is there a motion to approve the proposed budget for school year 26 as presented?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the 2025-2026 proposed budget as presented.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made by Ms. Causey, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Is this one of the things that we have to have a roll?
It's so funny, I just wrote that down. Do we have to have a roll call vote for this? No.
Not this one? Okay.
Thank you.
Because we would need a roll call vote for something that they haven't gotten their stuff together. I will stop talking anyway. Yeah, there are times when board docs where they actually have to have a verbal vote,
want an
but this
actual
isn't one of them. So
audio?
we're okay to.
There are opinions about that. I'm going to defer to the attorney in the room, but board docs, because it does record your individual vote, is considered by some to be a roll
okay.
call vote. But this particular item, the only item that technically calls for a roll call right now is your audit.
That's
You do
right.
that.
I knew it had to do with money.
Yes.
Well, many
Okay.
districts only, they do group votes, so not many do it like us where we actually vote
clicking in.
individually every
Right.
time.
Yeah, just,
Go ahead, but go ahead and vote. Tick tock.
It's
tick,
because
tock.
you guys said roll
See,
call
we talked
vote.
it.
Yeah.
We cursed it.
Can
we
we do
did.
let's do a voice roll call.
Yeah, mine came up. It's just hang. It hasn't
not
saved it
saving.
yet. Come on, board docs. We like you.
It knows we're getting rid of it.
I know.
That's right. I will call everyone's name. Member
Okay.
Gresham,
Aye.
Member Hunt,
Aye.
President Thompson,
Aye.
Vice President Kazi,
Aye.
Member Holcomb.
aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is performance-based pay for the superintendent per the superintendent's contract. This is an item where the board may choose at its discretion to award the superintendent performance-based pay based on the achievement, the superintendent's evaluation, which we conducted in an executive session earlier today, and substantial progress towards meeting the agreed-upon goals of the district. Does any board member have any comments or wish to make a motion?
I move to, oh, does anyone have comments? I will make a motion to approve the performance-based pay for the superintendent.
A second.
Motion made by Ms. Gresham, seconded by Mr. Hunt. Please vote. Board docs, please. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Guerin, for all your hard work. We're so deeply appreciative of your leadership for the district. Next item on the agenda, discipline matrix. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent, Ms. Marshall.
Thank you. President Thompson, members of the board, members of cabinet, I'd like to bring forward the discipline matrix that we are proposing for the 25-26 school year. You'll see that it, in general, is exactly what we've had in the past. We do have a recommendation for 4 revisions to this document. The first being, and what we did was followed the same model we do for our policies, so you'll see them highlighted in red. So the first on page 2, you'll see that our committee, which is comprised of school administrators, parents, teachers, and we also have a community member, felt that although truancy is listed, that we wanted one that was specific for students that are skipping class. They might be in attendance for the day, but due to circumstances, they will not show up for a particular class period. And the site administration felt that this would be helpful to be able to track and support the student and work with the families. So we're requesting to add that component to the discipline matrix. Then on page 5, you'll see we've had inappropriate language, and as we see society changing as well, just felt that we also needed to change that definition to be more specific, including gestures, because it's not always a verbal that is inappropriate, but sometimes the gesture. So again, the recommendation from the committee would be to strengthen that definition for inappropriate language. On page 25, As you'll recall, we had a situation this past school year with a simulated firearm. So there's dangerous items that are listed. There are firearms that are already listed. In this case, that situation did go to a discipline hearing, and the outcome from that was that we felt adding that simulated firearm would also help the child. So again, being student-focused, that it would more specifically detail what had happened for that child as they matriculate through their school years. And then on page 27, where we have the glossary of definitions, we are using the ruler model, as you know, and so we wanted to use the definition that came from ruler for conflict. More and more, the schools are using blueprint mediation, which is through ruler, so you'll see that in item 5. But blueprint mediation is specific to the ruler company, and we felt for the general public to just say that it was mediation, but then to use that definition for the glossary item number 4 that comes from ruler. So minor changes, but we believe will have a great impact for the discipline for next year.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Holt.
Quick question on the, well, actually two, if I may. Just an explanation, because these are added things. The simulated firearm looks like it has the same set of interventions and responses as a dangerous weapon. Was there a discussion, because it is simulated, not that I'm saying that's inappropriate, I think that's appropriate, but was there in consideration, because it is not actually a weapon, it's a simulated firearm, that whether the discipline should be, or response should be any different?
Yes, there is the difference between the simulated firearm, and that came out in that hearing. There was no direct threat that was made in the incident that we experienced last year. And so just working, our attorney actually came for that hearing as well, just working through that process to see that adding that to the handbook would be helpful. And as Member Holcomb is pointing out, we did use the same interventions and responses that we do have. We felt that there's range enough for those. What you'll see that's not there, that is there with the actual guns, weapons, is the expulsion, which is under state law. And so this still allows us a long-term suspension where a school administrator is restricted for up to a 10-day suspension, and then a discipline hearing would allow for that longer term. So the committee just felt, and again, in working with our legal counsel through the situation we experienced, that the interventions and responses would pertain to both.
Okay, thank you, that's appropriate. Just, and sort of the same type of question, I think this is important just for the community to understand what you're looking at. The change in the definition, which expanded the application of the inappropriate language and got rid of the inappropriate language. There was no change in the interventions, even though the definition was expanded.
That is correct. Again, the committee just felt, based on the feedback from the schools, that the behaviors that we were seeing were more than just the inappropriate languages previously defined, but that the interventions and responses were meeting the need.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, Ms. Gresham.
Thank you. I think I have a question, and thank you for adding that or changing that language. I appreciate those changes, and yes, feel they're necessary at this point in time. And also just a general, I guess this isn't a question, 2 comments. With the addition of the skipping class, just kind of a general observation. I don't have the answers, but just something that I'm sure you have thought of, but we should keep in mind is that for a lot of these, the responses are on-campus detention or suspensions when they're being responses to missing school. So just to bring up in a larger context, a lot of, and this isn't just us, but in general, a lot of those responses are missing school for missing school, so it's often seems like a strange circular response. So I just feel like I just wanted to bring that up. And I don't have any suggestions, but just something that we should, I guess, be mindful of in the future.
No, that Member Gresham, that is a good comment. Obviously, students that are avoiding school would then get what they're looking for if they receive that suspension. You'll see that there are many things that are in place, and hopefully the schools are choosing those prior to jumping right to a suspension. But as you see a pattern, there is that period of time where you need to let the child know that this is serious enough for a suspension. I will say that the committee did choose to limit it to up to 3 days, where some of them can be a 5-day, up to a 9-day, and so on. But that is certainly something that we can monitor next year through the suspension reports to see if that skipping class is leading to too many suspensions.
I have two questions. I'll ask them both together so I don't forget one of them. One is related to what does restitution look like for skipping class? That seems like an unusual, yes. The other related to that skipping class issue that was triggered about avoiding classes. We have requirements for students who come from out of district if they have excessive absences from school. I'm wondering if skipping, if a serial skipper would be contemplated in and potentially, have their out of district status revoked. So those are my two questions.
I'll start with the first one, President Thompson. The restitution can look different ways. For example, a teacher obviously prepared a lesson and had an assignment. The student missed out on that lesson delivery, and so how would that be made up? That would be the restitution that would be provided. There could be an instance where there's a group project and the student who's responsible for a portion isn't there. So again, what would the restitution be to the other group members that picked up the slack, if you will? So depending on the circumstance, the restitution would look differently.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Regarding the revocation of open enrollment, it's very rare, but we do have the revocation for, we consider the 3 areas, the attendance, the grades, the behavior. In the case of the attendance, what we try to show is that we have exhausted the resources that are available, whether it's our social worker, the counselors that are available, the work with the assistant principal in the case of a few of the campuses that have a dean, the relationship with the teacher and so on. If it continues, there's something missing there for that child, and what we try to show the family is that this may not be the right fit for your child. And hopefully it wouldn't lead to a revocation, more of a school choice for the parent to see that there might be a different campus that would better fit their child's needs.
Perfect. Thank you for both of those explanations. There's no other comments. Is there a motion to approve the school year 26 discipline matrix as presented?
So moved.
I'll second that one too.
Motion made by Mr. Holcomb, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Last item on the action items, Heights Spanish Immersion Curriculum Materials Adoption. Dr. Garrett.
President Thompson, members of the board and cabinet, I will again turn this over to Ms. Marshall.
Thank you, President Thompson, members of the board, and members of cabinet. At a previous board meeting, Principal Lee from Madison Heights presented the work of the adoption committee, as well as the teachers who enthusiastically spoke in favor. We have had the materials on the required public display for more than 60 days, and tonight we are asking, there has been no formal feedback that has been provided. Anecdotally, parents have shared with Mr. Lee their enthusiasm, but nothing formal was provided. But we are asking your approval that we adopt the Vista Higher Learning materials for our Spanish immersion program.
If there are no questions from the board, can I have a motion to approve the Heights Spanish immersion materials as presented?
I move that we approve the Heights Spanish immersion curriculum materials as presented.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Kazi, seconded by Mr. Hunt. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. How did this thing work for every other item? Last item on the agenda before adjournment, a discussion regarding future board meetings. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, before we give you a few weeks off, we're going to regroup on June 30th. Some of you will be here virtually, some of you will be here in person. We will have a quorum, and it will be first a hearing for truth and taxation, a hearing for the budget, and then we will seek your approval for both items at the board meeting on June 30th at 5 p.m. Yep. And then you'll have a few weeks off till our July meeting. Yes.
I just want to confirm we're going to get a calendar invite just so that I don't forget, because I'll be calling in because I'm part of the quorum, I suspect. I don't have it on my calendar right now.
I will.
Resend. I will most likely not be able to make that meeting, but am anxious to hear if there is any public feedback, but am very supportive of the budget that's been presented and the truth and taxation documents if I'm unable to attend.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Gresham?
Just a question, when is so the public hearing's at 5, do we have the whole thing's a public hearing, or do we have to wait and do a
It's my
regular-
understanding there's a public hearing, and then
in the
10 minutes later, there is a board meeting.
Board meeting.
Oh, it's after, in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I
We can
wasn't sure
do
if had to
both
wait.
hearings in one hearing.
Yeah.
So we'll have one public hearing, we'll have two items within that public hearing, the proposed budget and the truth and taxation.
And then
adjacent
we'll go
ways.
straight to the.
And then we'll go straight into the meeting, probably around 5:10.
Just wasn't sure if we had to schedule that for like 6 or something. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do have an invite for that one from 5 to 5:30. Yeah,
It's 5
5
to
5 till
5 to
until-
5:30.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt me to send it again.
Okay, any
That's all I
other
have.
questions or comments? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I will second.
Motion made by Mr. Holcomb, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Please vote.
For a second, you wanted to stay longer.
I got us done in less than an hour. Motion passes unanimously. We're adjourned.
If anybody would like any to-go items, there are a few bags and a few to-go containers over there, so please help yourself.